Welcome, listeners, again to the TitleFight.com roundtable. On the line, we have Steve Gallegos and Gordie Tamayo here. Going to touch base on last night's action between global sensation Manny Pacquiao taking on Timothy Bradley for the rematch of their highly controversial bout that took place roughly over a year and a half ago. Since then, we've seen both fighters come back in different form here. I mean, we've seen a totally different side of Bradley over the last two fights that he's had. Obviously, the Tim Bradley that we saw in the ring with Manny last night as well was not the same same Bradley that we saw in the first bout as well. Steve, give me your impression of what you thought Bradley brought to the table here last night, and was it what you were expecting?
Well, he brought a very high level of intensity to this rematch. He was gunning for the knockout from the opening bell. Throwing and at times landing some hard shots, and some of them shots did hit their mark fairly well and stunned Manny at least on two occasions. But really, I thought it was the wrong game plan for Bradley coming in the fight. He probably would have had more success, boxing, sort of the way that he did against Juan Manuel Marquez. And also he was swinging very recklessly. Manny saw everything coming. It was very competitive for the first 6 rounds, which I expected a much more competitive fight than the first one. But Manny, solved the puzzle, after the 6th. And that's when Bradley started to run out of gas and get winded. So after that, it was all Manny.
Yeah, I've seen Bradley coming out at the beginning very aggressive, very confident. He arguably could have won the first couple, or actually maybe half and half going into round 4. I had it pretty even there, but then all of a sudden things started to change. There was also word that Timothy Bradley also hurt himself and hurt his leg again, and maybe that helped contribute to it, although, props to him for not trying to make excuses after the fight there. As far as public perception here, now the way he went in there and chose to brawl versus box, do you think, in your opinion, the public appreciates that a lot more, and he's going to be more respected in the public's eye, wanting to be seen more, or did he just come out there and make himself look bad by swinging wildly, recklessly, and clowning a little bit too much?
I don't think that Bradley's fighting style or any of his fights have the way that he fights is not. It's not the way that he fights that have lost him fans. It's the way that is what he does outside the ring. The way he talks. Basically, the reason why he lost so many fans is because he did not deserve to win the first fight, and he actually believed that he won it and kept boasting that he won the fight, that he deserved to win, and that's what threw a lot of fans off. A lot of fans are now, like him because, they felt he was, that he was lying, that he didn't deserve that fight. I don't think it's his fighting style. He's always going to have, fight fans are always going to love to watch Timothy Bradley fight regardless. It's just the way that it's humility is the reason why they do not respect him. And I think after last night, he probably earned himself a lot more fans, by the way he handled himself out after the fight, not making any excuses other than the leg problem, which is probably legitimate because during that fight, when he got tangled up and stumbled against the ropes, I think that's when he hurt himself. So, but he did not make no excuses, gave Manny all the respect in the world, which I did not expect. A lot of fighters, don't give out a lot of respect to their opponents. He did, so he probably earned himself a lot more fans by doing that.
And stylistically, I mean, is there something he could have done different to pull a victory out of last night's bout, and at the same time entertaining the fans there, or is just Manny's just on a different level than him? What do you think?
He could have boxed. He could have switched and did counterpunch in the same way he did against Marquez. It would have threw Pacquiao off because Pacquiao has a hard time with counterpunchers. If he would have stayed there, used his jab, box, work, off of Manny's, countered Manny, because you saw at times he was landing that right hand at will, by counterpunching. If he would have done that instead of just trying to go for the knockout with every single shot, he would have had a better chance. Basically he tried going for the knockout, and he had no plan B after that. Once that game plan didn't work, he did not try anything else. He just got winded and was still trying to knock him out with every shot. That was not the way that he was supposed to have done that.
Yeah, at some point in time, I think he just was too big in a hole and a deficit to even switch up to a boxing tactic, because he had dug himself in a pretty deep hole, 3/4 of the way into the fight there. So maybe that was the only plan they thought was a probable option for him there. Who knows? Going forward, we have Manny, who in some people's opinion has resurrected himself here and shown that he still has a lot left in him to continue forward fighting on the elite level. But realistically, what's on the canvas for him here? Aram's already talked about, hey, nothing's going to be moving forward in negotiations until Marquez gets done fighting Alvarado. But realistically, matching him up again versus Marquez or a potential one against Alvarado, are those any viable options that you think, Steve, would fit?
There's not very many options on the table for him. I mean, the winner of Marquez Alvarado, either one of those would probably be a good scrap. I think Manny would have his way with Alvarado. With Marquez, it would always be a great fight, but nowadays, I'm not sure if we want to see another Pacquiao Marquez fight. It's being watered down as if there's no one else for either one of them to fight. Aram's starting to run out of options here. Mm-hmm. Honestly, the best fight for him, which we have not heard anything about, is a fight with Ruslan Provodnikov. That would be a very intriguing fight. Provodnikov hits hard. I mean, he sparred with him for a number of years. They both, are under the Freddie Roach stable. I'm not sure who Roach would end up training in that fight. I think he would go with Manny because Manny's his guy. But I think that would probably be the best fight that could be made. Should Provodnikov win his next fight, which he probably will. Let's see them two fight before the end of the year. That would be an outstanding mega fight right there.
Yeah, it is an interesting matchup there, being that they're under the same trainer there, and we've seen things like that happen before. I'm not sure if that one would map out, but yeah, you're right. The options are running very, very thin for Manny Pacquiao and who Aram can cash in on. So that's going to be interesting what moves forward. One of the bouts that has been buzzing around and that a lot of fans were constantly giving criticism for was Gallegos campaigning for a shot at Canelo Alvarez. Now the standout Cuban boxer here, who's widely considered avoided by some fighters for his style, didn't seem to be given the time of day as far as being able to possibly face Canelo. Well, rumor started to circulate around, and now it's been official that there's negotiations in place here for a possible July 12th event on pay-per-view with Canelo facing Lara. Now, in the eyes of many people as well, it's kind of flipped the other way around, where Canelo's stock seems to have gone up. He's taking more control over making sure he's stepping in the ring with legitimate challenges instead of just some of these, blown up fighters that are really too small to be facing him. What's your overall take on this potential matchup here, Steve?
I think it's great. I think, I give Canelo a lot of credit for taking this fight, because it is a very dangerous fight, more dangerous than Austin Trout, more dangerous than Mayweather, because Lara, very dangerous, very good technical boxer who can hit. He is very dangerous. He's got great underrated punching power, and he likes to get in there and mix it up, even though he's a very good, slick boxer. It's a very dangerous fight, very losable fight. But Canelo's stepping up, wanting to take on the best, and there's nobody out there that's better or more deserving than Lara at 154 pounds.
So put money on the table between these two guys. Who do you got?
I'm picking Lara to win this fight. I've always said Lara would school him, possibly hurt him really bad. I think Lara outboxes him probably worse than what Mayweather did.
Really? Yeah. Could very well be the case. A lot of hardcore boxing fans are kind of on that consensus as well. Well, in the upcoming months here, we should, less than that maybe even, but we'll be hearing some more news, I'm sure, about this pretty soon, as they've been continually talking about already putting these negotiations to rest here, so let's hope for the better. One of the other bouts that has been, building a buzz here, and we got a little bit of a taste of last night as well, a preview of a face-off here between Miguel Cotto coming up against Sergio Martinez. Now, both of these guys have obviously built up resumes here against quality opposition. A lot of hype going into this fight, a lot of trash talking too. Martinez, was very vocal about Cotto and his demands going into this fight. Everything from the color of the corner that he wanted to be chosen, that he wanted to pick, to walking in first or walking in last. He pointed out that Miguel was being basically a diva, with all these high demands here. What's your overall take, Steve, on the war of words that's been going on between these two, and what's your prediction behind this fight?
I tend to agree with Martinez. Martinez is the legitimate, true middleweight champion. Cotto has not proven anything at 160 pounds, and basically Martinez is going into his backyard, Madison Square Garden, having Cotto, come in second and make all the demands, and he's not the champ, not even the title holder. He's lost he's lost 2 out of his last 3 bouts. So yes, and he's making all these demands, and Martinez is the champ. So I agree with him 100% on this.
And so, what's your overall prediction on what's going to take place here? I mean, does Cotto have enough in the tank left in? I mean, we all know he's been in some pretty big wars. Martinez shown some signs of wear and tear, or maybe that was just a one-off for him here against his last bout in front of his hometown crowd. Which one's going to steal the show here?
I'm still going to go with Martinez in this fight. He's always been spectacular. I think in the Martin Murray fight, he was fighting a guy that was very underrated, definitely not a pushover. It turned out to be a much more harder fight than he expected. And also, Martinez came back after, suffering those injuries against Chavez Jr., came back too soon. I mean, 5-6 months, was not enough time for him to recover from those injuries, especially someone at his age. He needed to take at least a full year off before coming back. So I think it was more of a one-off situation. And the way styles, match up here, Martinez is probably too quick stylistically, probably is going to be more difficult, to hit because Martinez, throws punches from odd angles, I think he's just going to pop shot him all night. Cotto's hand speed, is not what it once was. In fact, really never really had much hand speed, period. So I think he's not going to be able to catch Martinez. Martinez is just going to have his way with him all night. So I, picking Martinez by unanimous decision.
Good stuff there. I'm actually looking forward to this one too, because we know that Cotto just doesn't lie down to anybody, so he's going to be in there till the very end or until he gets taken out. We'll see what happens there. Well, thanks again for tuning in, everybody. Again, Gordie Tamayo, Steve Gallegos for TheTitleFight.com. Until next time.